Okay, it should be live right now. I will give some people some time to get on. I completely forgot that today um, was Wednesday, meaning that I have my monthly recap live. And I'm sure there are going to be a couple of new people coming in. Welcome. Have who are not aware of the monthly recap live and what that is. So I'm going to give a bit of an overview on what that is, what you can expect every month, um, a little bit of news because there's a lot going on for Top and Fiction, at least taking us through into early next year. But I think I'm only for this one, I'm only going to talk about um, what happened in October and what we're doing in November and December, just so that people aren't too overwhelmed with 2026. So I'm going to try to not talk about and not think about 2026 until like maybe December. I think in December, in next month's um, monthly recap, I'll talk about the 2026 stuff. I'm just refreshing my page so that I can put a link up to the fact that I'm live. Okay, here it is. Okay, let's see. I think I can take this. Hopefully, people in the comments can hear me. If you guys can, I didn't even ask that question, but if you could give like a thumbs up um, that you're able to hear me, that'd be great. Thumbs up. Thank you very much. Appreciated. Um, just a few minutes to give people a chance to come in. Let me do a note. Monthly recap number 10 is okay. Let's set that. All right. How's everyone's Wednesday? I just want to drink my coffee before it gets cold. Yep, mine is pretty good too. A little cold, that's why I'm wearing my hat. I've got like a space heater on at the other end of my office. I've got a smaller space heater under my desk pointed right at my feet to warm me up. I'm like, I should be wearing my hoodie right now, but I forgot it upstairs. So um, I like to be in a warm environment. Um, whereas my wife likes to be in a cold environment. It's strange, but I think I might need to get my electric blanket going down here. I have been neck deep in InDesign and getting the files ready to go for oh yes, this is updated. Awesome. Ready to go for our first anthology release next year, honestly. So that's what I've been kind of working on off and on, mostly for the entire time. I actually decided I'll share this, but it's just the one that I happened to grab off the shelf. It's not but this is essentially the size that I'm going for when I do the um the anthology. So I grabbed, you can see like what my comparison books were. Um I this is what I recommend people do if you're going to self-publish and you're going to do a print version. One of the easiest and simplest things you can do is take books that are off your shelf and ask yourself, do I want my book to be this size, this shape, this whatever? So here's, as you can see, there's a bit of a theme here on what I've been grabbing. So here's another one, but you can see that it's slightly taller, slightly fatter. So I've been just like messing around. I even grabbed the Midnight Vault in comparison to the other ones. This one is much bigger and much wider. And then I compared this one to my other Agatha Christie book, like, this is what I've been doing, and then I literally walk around with it, hold it. I'm constantly opening it, flipping through it to see what the feel is like of, like, just opening and flipping through the pages, what kind of pages are these, like, how everything, just there's nothing. I even grabbed, the infamous Essie Reed because hers is really narrow, so I wanted to see in comparison to the one that I'm going with, as you can see, hers is the same height, but it's much narrower. Then after I finalize which book I liked, I then will do two things. One is I'll go on Amazon, finding the exact book, go to the details, get the dimensions that they have on there. But sometimes the dimensions they have on there might not match 100% just because I sometimes can't remember if I bought this from the UK or if I bought this from the United States. So the differences are like millimeters to inches to centimeters. So then I will grab my own measuring tape and I'll just do my own um, measuring to then get what I want it to be. And luckily, the measurements are what I said I was going to do to begin with, which is great because I had already started doing the internal files on InDesign. So it would have sucked if I had decided to go with something else and I would have had to resize everything. And it's a nightmare when you try to resize something on InDesign. If you've ever worked on that, you know what I mean. Anyway, so I've got these books stacked here. I've been working on that. I've got Um, my other things that I'm working on for an anthology of a magazine for next year. I just had to update InDesign on this computer because I'm doing this across two different computers, and if they're not on um, the same software update, then I just realized I couldn't open it on this computer, which is weird because this is my newer computer and it doesn't have the newer file software, so I had to update it. But anyway, keeping everything. Um, Organized in my brain on paper, checking things off as I go. It's quite a bit, but let's start with what the monthly recap is for those who may not be aware. So, monthly recap is something that I started way back last year when I started doing Top and Fiction weekly. So, way back in the day, in the early days, which was almost 18. It hasn't been a full 2 years yet. I think it's been 18 months ago, I was actually going live, I believe, every week. Um, and I was doing medallions every week, and it was a lot. And so I decided to um, change the formula. So I stopped going live every week, and instead, I decided I would do a monthly recap, and I would only go live once a month. And I think that started at the beginning of this year. My dates are a little fuzzy because I make so many changes for Top and Fiction, but ideally, the point of it in my mind was to it, kind of do what it says, a recap, right? So I go back to the previous weeks from the month and I go into each weekly issue, and from each weekly issue, I pluck two stories, and these are usually done at random. I usually don't because all of them have been featured already, so I don't feel like I need to. be any more specific. I just pick any one, and I take some from the featured stories. I take one from the featured stories, and then I take one from, at the time, they were honorable mentions, but I recently changed it to new voices. And so when I take 2 from each week, if it's a 4-week month, then I have 8. If it's a 5-week month like October was, then I'll have 10. And then what I do is I will take another 10, which will be stories I haven't featured, but may have recommended themselves and filled out the form and just weren't selected that week, right? So this is a pretty intensive thing that I do for the monthly recap. So I usually end up with anywhere from 18 to 20 featured stories in the monthly recap. And when I started doing this, the point of it was to actually have less work for myself because it was a lot of work for me to do weekly medallions. And this is where this all started. So only stories featured in the monthly recap email receive a medallion. So they're a lot harder to get, and I'm hoping that it makes them even more special to the people who get them because they're no longer given out every week. They're only given out once a month, and they're only given out to all 20 of the stories that are featured. So you have essentially two chances to get a medallion. You can either be featured every week, and then, it's a bit of a lottery system on if I select your story to be featured in the monthly recap, or you could end up being selected as a part of the, like, news stories that weren't featured in the last several weeks of the month. It might seem a little complicated. It makes sense in my mind, and this is how I put it together. And then during the monthly recap, I come on here live and I read out the the story title and the name of the person who wrote it and the name of their publication. And then I read all of those. Typically, the format is I come on here, I start with any news, then I will do all of the things. Sometimes, depending on if I have a guest on with me, I will I will read off the featured stories for the monthly recap first, so that I can then bring on the guest after I've done that. But if I don't have a guest, then I will just do business as usual. I'll give you the news, and then Um, I actually feel like I'm overheated, and then I'll read the stories after that. Okay, so let's start with some news. So, firstly, I want to say that we completed the inanimate objects contest um, on Halloween Day, which was last week, Friday. We had more than 35 submissions. We almost have 40, but some people asked to be pulled and some people dropped out for various reasons. So, I think the final number was 35. Of the 35 stories, I believe 27 or 28 people were invited to be a part of the anthology. We couldn't fit everyone. The anthology would have just been too big. Um, and so hold on one second. Hold on. My wife is asking me to let the dog out. Hold on one second. Come here, Rocky. Rocky, come. Go ahead. Let me tell her. Sorry about that, guys. I was not expecting to get a message. Hopefully she sees my text. Okay, so what was I saying? Okay, so that happened last month. We're working on the anthology. The anthology for inanimate objects will hopefully be released. I'm shooting for October 27th. Um, 2026. There's a reason for that. I can't remember what the reason is. I just remember the date. But yeah, so I'm shooting for that date for the release of Inanimate Objects. That will be the second anthology that we release under the TIFF Press publication. The first one is the one that I'm working on now, which is the ICU anthology, which is It has a cover, which is amazing. We just have to kind of tweak it and get it perfect for the print version and then for the ebook. But the cover is, I would say, 95% ready to go. And that will be revealed in an email in the next couple of months. The date of publication for that has been pushed back. It was originally going to be February 13th, which would have been a Friday the 13th, but I want to not rush myself with this. And I also know that when dealing with getting proof copies and things like that, it can be up to a week to 2 weeks to getting that in the mail. So I decided it would just be better to move it to March. And luckily, because the dates fall on the same exact day of the week, um, I know that Friday the 13th will also be happening in March, so it kinda works out. I'm aiming for Friday the 13th just because of the significance of the fact that the contest, happened on the only Friday the 13th that took place this year, which was in June. And so I wanted to hit a Friday the 13th in 2026. And if I don't do February or March, the next Friday the 13th is until I believe November. And I already have something planned for that. So it can't be released then because there's something huge that I'm not telling you about until next year that's going to happen for next November. But anyway, so look for a lot of promoting of ICU Anthology, and I hope that you guys will help me to promote that, to help the writers, and the writers will obviously be helping to promote that as well. There'll be 20 short stories in that anthology. Um, so yeah, so we got that, and now for November, we are doing Novelvember, which is kind of a corny name, but it was something I literally came up with very last minute. I put together a forum over on TIFF Press, again, very last minute. It's all very bare bones. But depending on how much traction I get, how many people use it, I will put more time and effort in making it look better and be friendlier with others the more people come to it to use it. So for right now, because I'm so busy with everything else, I simply can't do a check-in every single day, but I will do one every 5 days. So there'll be at least 7, I believe, posts from me where I will check in. I just did a check-in today, and each time I check in, I ask you a question about whatever it is you're working on. So you answer the question, and then you give, your uh, word count number at the end of you answering the question. And it's done like a forum. You register to get a top in fiction, a TIFF Press account. It's free. Yes, it's creating another username or password. I apologize for that. There is a bigger reason for wanting to get to register yourself on TIFF Press, and that's something that's not going to come for another couple years down the line. But it's good to get in now while it's still very early, very bare bones. So that's happening in November. Now, something else that's happening this month, very important, is 5 days from now on November 10th, which is Monday, um, the TIFF Secret Santa plot swap is happening. So, what that is, for those who might be wondering, is my version of a Secret Santa. And the way that works is using an example of someone in the room. Brooke, I hope you don't mind if I point you out because you're the last person I think who popped in here. But let's say I come up with a story idea, and I think the word cap is 50 words that has to do with the theme. And I believe the theme is what is inside the box. I believe it's something to that effect. So I come up with a plot idea, and then Brooke comes up with a plot idea. What will happen is I will take the all of everyone's plot ideas and I will swap them so that essentially I will get whatever Brooke wrote for her plot, and she will get whatever I wrote. And then I will have to take her plot idea and write a story based on her plot idea for what is inside the box. And then she will have to do the same. And then on December 22nd, everyone is going to have their story post, and I'm gonna come on live and I'm going to reveal who got who. So you're not gonna know which plot you got, you're just gonna get a plot, right? So I'm gonna come online and say, Brooke, you wrote a story for Erica, and Erica, you wrote a story for Brooke. It won't typically be that way that it'll be swapped like that. It'll be a much more intricate swapping where it won't be like, I'm gonna get your story, you're gonna get mine. Um, but that just kind of gives you an idea on what the Secret Santa plot swap premise is. So, if you want to participate, I told people what the theme was early because I wanted to give people a chance to come up with a theme. This is a very challenging one because I wanted to make it so that you could write a plot in any genre that you prefer to write in. However, you're not going to be writing a story based on your plot, right? So you might write a synopsis that leans heavily towards the genre you prefer, but you might get one that leans heavily towards a genre you're not familiar with. So the challenge is going to be in you being able to take that plot idea that was given to you and either stick to whatever genre it clearly is or, be good enough in writing whatever your genre is to make it your own. But you're going to be taking someone else's plot idea and writing a story. Now, this is not a new concept. I went to Ben Wakeman, who did the uh, same Walk, Different Shoes, I believe is what his was called, and he did 2 of those, which is essentially the same idea where people came up with, a story plot based on a theme that he gave, and then he swapped them, and then people wrote a story, about that person's experience on something, and so it did very well, and so I asked him if he could give me some advice on how to do this, and, so he, gave his sign of approval and he's excited to see me, step in and do this Secret Santa plot swap version of that. And so I hope that it's successful. I hope that a lot of people sign up for it. The signups will open on Monday and they will be for 5 full days. So look for me to be promoting it hard and heavy. You're only going to have 5 days to sign up. So the sign up opens from the 10th to I think that's the 14th. And then on the 17th, I will be DMing everyone on Substack with what their plot is. So that way you have from essentially November 17th till December 19th to um, get back to me on the link that I will need to prove that you have scheduled your story, that it will go live so that I can then send an email on December 22nd with everyone's story and who everyone's story was written for. So it gives you about a month to write it. And, the story length is up to you. I recommend shorter is better. So between 500 and like maybe 2,500 words. This is open to anyone. You don't have to be a fiction writer to participate, but you do have to understand that what will be required of you is to write a fiction story based on a plot that is given to you. So, yeah, if you think you can do that, I recommend that anyone who wants to look for that to open up on Monday. Now, the next Monday on the 17th, there will be signups for our TIFF Day of Thanks. There's so much happening in November. So this was something that I'm really excited about. I came up with this in January of this year, actually, and I've been waiting on pins and needles to release it. And here we are in November. So I'm very excited. It's going to be a warm and fuzzy day. Get your cozy blanket, get a cup of coffee, a cup of hot cocoa, whatever it is, and prepare to laugh, cry, whatever the case may be. But the idea is from the 17th to the 20, I believe that's uh, the 21st, from the 17th to the 21st, another, again, 5 days, you have the opportunity to, use a form that I'm gonna provide to you to give thanks to a specific writer, a specific story, um, or whatever kind of to the fiction community overall. You can be anonymous in what you have to say. You can not be anonymous. The choice is yours. But the idea is to essentially say thanks, give thanks. It's a TIFF Day of Thanks to say thank you for that story you wrote way back in January. Thank you for always being there to support the community. Thank you for your entire Substack publication and all of the stories you write, whatever you want to write to whoever you want to write, whether it's the community at large, a specific person or a specific story, you will go in and you will all, submit, and you could do as many as you want. And then depending on how many there are, I'm either going to read them all or I'm going to read some of them. But the idea is I will again do a Substack live on I believe I'm gonna do November 24th, and I will read, again, either all of them or some of them, and it'll just be a day to just, be nice to each other and be thankful for the community that we've built here and the stories that we've read along the way, throughout the year of 2025. Um then in December, I think the only thing we have in December, which is probably a good thing, is the Secret Santa plot swap is that will happen on December 22nd. So again, if you want to participate in either of these two things, either give thanks to someone for being awesome in the community and their storytelling, that's going to be on the 17th, the opportunity, or if you want to be a part of the plot swap, that will be in 5 days from now on Monday, November 10th. That's all I'm going to tell you about right now. There's a lot happening in 2026, but I'm not going to go into that just because I want you to focus on the next two major events, which is essentially the plot swap, the TIFF Day of Thanks. Now I'm going to transition into reading the featured stories for uh, the monthly recap live number 10 feature stories for the month of October. These are stories that were written between September 27th to October 31st. And we will start with poetry. Echo Chamber, written by Iris Shaw of Long Oddities. Too Far Gone, written by Mina Howell of Mina Howell. The Lock Paradox, written by T.S. Morgan of T.S. Morgan. Ghost, written by Bree Heron of Writing on a Whim. October, written by M. N. Tarrant of A Ghost in the Doorway. Micro/flash fiction. You'll Go, Then I Go, written by Aurelian Ashmore of Cicada Cult. The Uneasy Morning, written by Brittany Quentua of I've Got Stories to Tell. Seasonal Creep, written by Scott McLeod of Son of Ugly. Sugar Addicts, written by Rachel Diane of Rachel Diane. Service Call, written by S.L. Stallings of Sharon Stories. Short stories. The Enigma at Beth Lake, written by R.I.P. McKenna of Barking at Nothing. Chasm, written by E.J. Trask and Sean Thomas McDonnell of Age of Aquarius and Automatic Writer. The Skin Archivist, written by Wendy Russell of Sass and Sage's Substack. The Haunting of William Thorne, written by Unforgotten Books of the Iron Scrivener. Quinceañera of the Damned, written by Miguel Martinez of Miguel Martinez. Texas Tea, written by Brooke Solomon of Brooke Solomon. The Waters of Leith, written by Lillian Wang Sedenick of Synthesized Sunsets. The Croning, written by Charlotte Henley Babb of Charlotte Henley Babb Writes. Rahab, written by D.M. Clemens of D.M. Clemens. The Grand Union, written by Will Gibbons of Will Gibbons. Okay, so that is 20 featured stories. Again, all 20 of these, when the email goes out, hopefully, that you will be able to click the link and get access to your medallion, which you can put wherever you like. Some people like to put it at the end of their story that was featured. Some people like to, share it on Substack Notes. It's up to you how where you want to share it, where you want to put it. Some people put it in their about page. There are several different things you can do with this medallion. It's up to you. Um, One thing I wanted to point out, which I didn't really notice because I've been so focused on horror, is I really appreciate that there was a lot of poetry that was recommended, so I tried to be cognizant of that and select much more poetry this time than I would in the past. I think there are five poetry um, that was selected. So, yay! I really want a lot of the other forms and genres to bubble up to the surface if possible. I'm always looking for more romance, mystery, historical fiction, climate fiction. So in this case, I just wanted to point out that we had a lot more poetry that was mentioned or recommended in October. So with that said, I will be back doing my next um, monthly recap live on December 3rd, and that will be the last one of 2025. However, that will be the monthly recap for November. So the monthly recap for December will be on January 7th, and that will be the last monthly recap essentially for the year of 2025. So technically, there are two more monthly recaps to go before we can sign off on 2025 and really look and focus in on 2026. In the meantime, thank you all for being here. Look for this email probably this afternoon just because I have to wait for the video. I have to download the video, then I have to re upload the video, and I have to do a whole bunch of things. So it's never like something I can just send instantly because there's a lot more to it. But thank you all for being here, and I will see you all. Um, Fairly soon. I think you're gonna hear from me a couple more times doing these lives. Until then, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being a part of Top and Fiction, a part of the community. Um, One thing I want to end on is I did send a bit of a note yesterday saying and explaining that our paid subscriptions will be turned on. And I just want to let anyone know who's interested that you can right now pledge, which is not being a paid subscriber, but pledging always lets me know that, when we do turn it on, would be more than willing to actually be a paid subscriber. So you can, by all means, do that. The reason is to become a patron, not to unlock anything that will be behind a paywall. There will never be anything behind a paywall. I do go into some of the things that paid subscriptions and the funding for that, what that will go towards, what that will help for the community, within the community, specifically for writers, because that's what I'm trying to do here is help writers in any way that I can and be able to give them and pay them money for the work that they do. So if that's something that you can afford, that you're interested in, um, you know, pledge. And if not, that's okay. Everything is going to remain free as usual. Nothing on topandfiction.com. Our Substack newsletter will be put behind a paywall at any moment. But in January, we do intend on turning that on because I know there are quite a few people who like to help the community and would like to do that on a more regular basis instead of being reminded, hey, do you want to donate? So this is a way for them to just do it on a more regular monthly basis without having to remember every month or every couple of months when I say, hey, we need help to get this, and then they contribute, right? So this is a way for it to be a much more regular thing. So if you can afford to do that, thank you so much. If you can't, that is totally okay. You're reading these stories, you're sharing these stories, and you're being a part of the community is more than enough help, and we appreciate it. Okay, so I'm going to bid you all adieu, and I will catch you guys next month. Thanks for being here. Bye.